We're back. I can't believe it. I can't believe.
God, you're really hanging on by a thread, Scott.
For those of you who may not know this, you're listening to the DMZ America podcast. I'm Scott Stantis coming to you from the right.
And I'm Ted Rall coming to you from the left.
So, podcast number 100, although according to the people who host our podcast, this is 101.
Yeah, I don't get that.
What are you going to believe? The facts or Ted and Scott? I know which one I would.
As do I.
We've never lied to you, and we never will. Anyway, so yeah, we were told. Anyway, so it's the 100th ish episode of the DMZ America podcast. I can remember talking to Ted, and Ted and I, a million years ago, I came across the paperwork recently, Ted, that Ted and I got together for a confab. A friend of mine has a condo down on the Gulf Shore, and we met there for a long weekend to discuss making a company called DMZ America. And at the time it was a web page, which seemed very cutting edge. And
yes.
And we decided that this would be, his side would, all of his copy and stuff would be on the left. Mine would be on the right. It would be a civil discussion of issues and so on. Unfortunately, life got in the way and we never got to pull the trigger on that. But so fast forward, doing a podcast is obviously easier and easier because God knows everybody's got one now. So why in the world did we feel we needed to add to that? Well, if you listen to this with any regularity, I think you notice that Ted and I actually have great affection for each other and great respect, even though, I doubt I would vote for candidates or for that Ted would support, and probably vice versa. But regardless of that, we both understand that there is a thinking process that gets us from point A to where we make a decision as to what our political positions are. We would talk. I mean, we're obviously very good friends. We talk several times a week, and the phone calls always seem to me oftentimes devolved into talking about Chartres or existentialism or, Kant and the social Rousseau's social contract. And I mean, just stuff like that, which we found fascinating, and we thought you would too. And apparently we were right. So thank you for listening. That's why we're doing it, I think. I mean, is that fair? I wish I could say it was more altruistic. To change the discourse of this country and to move the human race forward and to a better, more glorious future. No.
The humanity. Well, I mean, that would be awesome. I think we're both been around doing commentary long enough to know that it's very rare that you can really move the needle in any kind of meaningful way. But I think, as an individual, but I think we participate in raising issues and points of view that are often not talked about in a serious way. But Scott, I think, I think our biggest contribution is that we show the fact that people can have very different points of view, different backgrounds, different interests, and still not only be civil to one another, but be respectful and convince one another. Sometimes you've convinced me that I've been mistaken or wrong about something, and I know, and vice versa, and also that we can be friends. I mean, look, the thing is, we're always being reminded of how we live in a completely polarized society, and certainly the political system is, and part of that is that, of course, polarized politics is a profit model for cable television and for radio. But it's so I don't think what we do here is strive for centrism or moderation. I think what we do is we attempt to be well-intentioned human beings who are willing to accept the facts even when they're not in accordance with our ideological alignment, and sort of not just give the devil his due, but give the other side, concede when the other side is correct, and try to see where common ground can be found. And sometimes it can't, and that's okay. But basically, understand that, like, if you're trying to solve a problem, often it's really not about any kind of party line solution. or sometimes a party line solution that, like, for example, I think about the pandemic. It's pretty clear now that we shouldn't. I thought the lockdown made sense, at the time. It's pretty clear now that it didn't, and we shouldn't have done it. And it was really bad for the country. It was bad for the economy. We should have. Conservatives were right about that. And even if they were right for some of the wrong reasons, that doesn't change being right. Being right is being right. So
exactly.
So I think it's important. So I think that's, to me, it's almost like this was a social experiment that you and I knew would work, because we'd been doing it ourselves, talking every day on the phone about the day's events for years.
And how many people have told you that we shouldn't be friends? I mean, not that how are you friends? I mean, I always get the, how are you friends?
With that asshole.
I always get the, how can you be friends? It's like, well, we pick up the phone and we talk about stuff that.
Yeah. Like anyone.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, actually. It's especially with someone you like.
Well, that's really funny. I mean, it's kind of like that thing, where people will say, well, relationships take work, require work. And I'm like, not good ones. I mean, they require maintenance. That's for sure.
I love that. No, you're absolutely right. So, okay, that's why we do the podcast. And that's why we recognize that there were a million other podcasts out there for you to choose from.
All of which are shitty and should be banned by law.
Scott and
destroyed
by the arbiters.
Fire. I think it's important that we should thank our sponsor, the maker of the flamethrower drone.
What is the name of this? What is the manufacturer's name? You know it. I can't remember.
Oh, it's the Wasp. Remember? It's
the Wasp. Yes. Yeah.
Wasp 4000.
Just in case you haven't heard my description of their online ad, they show, for, if you have difficult issues, this can solve them. And it showed this ginormous wasp nest on the top of on the middle of a tree, actually. And this thing.
Don't forget where it is, by the way, where the wasp nest is. It's not like near like a children's playground or anything. It's in the forest.
Yeah, where they're
minding its own business, where wasp nests are supposed to be.
So this drone comes up and then just all of a sudden,
and the whole tree is on fire.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, they got the wasp nest, but they also got the fucking tree. It shows it, and so it shows very dramatic music. Bum 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 bum, and the drone triumphantly flies away. But in the background, you see this entire tree in flames, which makes you think the rest of the forest down. Yeah, the rest of the forest is going down too. So as soon as I saw
only
that,
you can start forest fires.
Ted and I were both sold on the flamethrower drone. Maybe that's what holds our friendship together, Ted. It's just our mutual admiration for the flamethrower drone.
A lot of relationships are far flimsier, Scott.
Can I tell them how this actually started? The mention of the flamethrower drone.
Yeah, please.
I'd be on the phone. We weren't recording. We weren't doing a podcast. We were just shooting the shit. And I would go in the backyard on nice days. And I have a lovely backyard. However, I had a psychotic neighbor with a psychotic dog that would bark non-fucking stop for 28 hours a day. It made me nuts. And so I'd be out talking to my friend Ted, and then all of a sudden he'd hear and that's when Ted brought up the idea to solve that problem.
I have a solution.
Because I've talked to that guy, because he's sitting there, and the neighbor at the time had a boyfriend. It was very strange, who smoked copious amounts of weed at a table in the screen and porch that looked directly into our backyard. So he'd be in my backyard and he'd just be sitting there sitting by his bong, and the dog. And so I would say, can you get the dog to shut up? And he would just keep staring, the guy, not the dog.
So was the dog inside and trying to get in?
No. It was outside at the fence barking at me and just anything.
Oh, it was one of those fucking dogs.
Yes. So
my mom had a dog, like a neighbor's dog like that. I hated fucking Cujo.
Oh God, what a name! Yeah, this one.
No, I mean, I called him Cujo.
Oh,
after the Stephen King thing.
Yeah. This dog, they didn't pay any attention to it. So dogs that aren't played with or given attention tend to just go in the backyard of wherever they live and bark nonstop.
Mm.
And that's what's happened. So anyway, I'm on the phone, and Ted mentioned, "Have you ever heard of flamethrower drone?" I go, "Tell me more." And he did. And he thought that problem solved. And so the problem actually solved itself. They moved away happily. But
Where do they live now?
They live nearby, and some other podcast.
Well, we'll see what the range is on that flamethrower, John.
Yeah,
revenge is still a motivation, you know.
Doug could still be around. So we need to talk about what we're going forward. Unfortunately for us, we looked like we had an interview with RFK Jr. lined up for the 100th episode, which would have been awesome. But it also would have introduced a new a new moment for this podcast. And what Ted and I are planning going forward is this, and we're announcing it now, is we want to reach out to as many third party and down ballot candidates as we possibly can for the presidency. RFK Jr. was one. Ted's reached out to Marianne Williamson. I think we should reach out to Nikki Haley, to some of the other candidates, and see if they would be willing to come on. But not just them, but also, as we mentioned earlier in this podcast, the Libertarian candidate for president or vice president, the Green Party candidate, the Socialist Party candidate, the Communist Party Workers.
Of course.
Communist Workers Party? Yeah.
Socialist Workers Party, SWP. I don't know if they're still around or not. One has to check. They have a long history, though. It's surprising how long they've been around. Yeah.
Because, as long as we walk the walk, as talk the talk, which is what podcasts are, we're going to walk the walk, and we want to give these people an ad. So if you're expecting us to jump down their throat and say, how dare you be against vaccines because you're on the air with the most vaccinated man in America, in Ted Rall. You have what?
That's true.
What's the number at now? 17, 18?
I'm at 8.
Jesus Christ. Okay. You're nuts. But
I've got more vaxxers than you do.
You do. Yeah. And yet we're both still alive. Anyway. So we want to give them a voice. We're not going to give them, we will challenge them when they say something we think is silly or wrong or not supported, but we're not going to be jumping down the throat like ABC did with RFK Jr. Apparently they did a piece on him, and they just they're bad guys in a dark alley. They just jumped him and clobbered him and took his wallet.
Yeah. No, look, I think these are people who don't get these are candidates who don't get much chance to get their ideas across. And so I think we should give them a forum as anyone who's willing to come on to contribute in our own small way to the small d democratic process. And,
and like we said, we're going to walk the walk that we've been talking for all these years. And so we're going to give them podcast time, and hopefully, so we extend this invitation now. Ted and I will continue to reach out to these candidates and say, we'd love to have you on. This isn't a hatchet job. This isn't a hit job. We want to hear what you have to say.
And if you are listening and you have contacts within a campaign with a presidential candidate who would be interested in joining us, reach out to us. You can do that through my website, rall.com, through the contact form, or you can tweet at us. You can tweet at Scott Stantis. You can tweet at me at Ted Rall. Sorry that we're so boring.
Yes.
Sorry, we're not called like Mac Cheese 127 or whatever.
Yeah. Tommy Bro 303.
Scronose 17.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
Yeah.
But okay, Scott, I've got a skedaddle.
Scott has a better interview to go to.
Well, I have another one to do. This has been one of those days, man. It's just like I got to draw 2 cartoons. I have 3 radio interviews. Got the podcast.
Yeah, you were on my show this morning.
Yeah. So speaking of which, where can we get all things Ted? Ted?
Well, you could go on the show that Scott is sometimes a guest on, and he will be again. It's The Final Countdown with me and Manila Chan, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. till 12 noon Eastern time. Bear in mind, Eastern time on Sputnik News. So you just go to Sputnik, just Google Sputnik. You can listen to it on Rumble. It's probably the easiest way to find it.
Well, I just go to Sputnik Radio, and they have a button you can push to stream the show.
You can see us if you care about that. It's like watching radio. I don't know. Some people watch the podcast. I never understood why, but maybe people could. Well, you have an interesting background, Scott. So,
so do you. You have
stuff to look at.
You have the People's Republic over your head.
That's true.
The people marching to glorious workers' victory, because that always
be nothing.
That always fucking works.
What could go wrong? Little cultural revolution never hurt anyone. Anyway, so you can also go to rall.com, gocomics.com/Ted Rall. You can go to Center Clip, which is an app free, not freemium yet, for both Scott and I are both on there. And yeah, I could go on, but I won't. Scott,
Okay.
where can people find all things Scott Stantis?
Well, go to Center Clip because both Ted and I post a lot. Ted is an amazing presence on Center Clip. And so if you want to listen to that, it's kind of cool. They're mini podcasts, 30 seconds to 5 minutes, just little audio clips about, hey, did you hear what happened today? Boy, that really sucked. Or that was great. I don't know why Mike Peters just took over my face for a second. So Center Clip. And there is centerclip.com. You can kind of taste it and see, hear some things, take a taste, see if you like it, then download the app. We strongly encourage you to do so. You want to see my work, go to gocomics.com/Scott Stantis, one word, see my editorial cartoons, go to gocomics.com, see Prickly City, my comic strip, or go to Chicago Tribune, check out the work I do for them, go to the Dallas Morning News, see the work I do for them. So that about covers it. Yep, that's it.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Off to your next interview.
Okay, Ted, it's been great. This is the 100 when
Likewise.
we get to
100. Here's to 100 more.
Here.
Happy 100.
All right, man. Love you. I'll talk to you, and I'll talk to all of you later. Ciao.
Bye, guys.